Today is Digital Marketing Knows No Borders. We are here in partnership with the Consulate General of Canada here in Boston. And it is these types of partnerships that enable us to bring this content to the community to expand entrepreneurship and economic development. And we're so happy to do that with them today. So this session is on SEO strategies for success. Brock Murray, who is here with us today, who is going to be leading this session, is the co-founder of SEO Plus. He is a passionate full stack digital marketing specialist, and with strategies that establish growth and maintain your online presence. Who better to lead us through this? And I'm excited to learn what you got today. So Brock, take it away.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's see if I can get my my screen shared here. Let me know if everyone can see that.
I see it.
All right, beauty. So first of all, I just want to say thank you, first of all, to the Consulate General of Canada in Boston and as well as Venture Café for putting this together. Honored to be included in this, and then of course to everyone attending today. Thank you for taking the time. I know a lot of people got busy schedules these days, so really appreciate you taking the time to hop in, and hopefully, for each one of you, you can have some kind of takeaway to help you kind of with your SEO, moving forward. So let's hop right in. I'm not going to talk too much about myself, but just to give you a little bit of a background on my experience. Been in the industry since I was, in my late teens in web design, and eventually kind of really, found passion in SEO. I'm also involved with a economic development agency in Ottawa called Invest Ottawa for the last 5 years. And that's helped me, working with companies of different sizes, from startups right through to kind of enterprise level businesses. And in 2012, I established SEO Plus. So it's a Canadian digital marketing agency. We have about 35 team members and members, in every area from SEO to web design, content, PR, any of the pieces that are important, from a digital marketing perspective. This year, one really cool thing about 2020, as tough of a year as it was, we actually won the best SEO campaign at the Canadian Search Awards. I believe Darian was actually hosting that, so kudos to you. And also a finalist for the Google Premier Partner Awards, and our team went down to New York City in 2019, which was really exciting. So enough about us, and let's dig right into the content here. So 68% of online experiences begin with a search engine. Right. So how important is that? Now, this stats from 2019. I imagine this may have gone down a little bit, but not to take away from anything. According to one stat, over 93% of traffic comes from Google search, images, and maps, not even counting YouTube. So obviously SEO is a really important thing, and having an organic presence is very important. Here's one stat that might surprise you. According to a study over 1 billion pages by Ahrefs, which is essentially like a digital marketing toolkit, almost 91% of web pages get no organic search traffic from Google. So, which is pretty wild, meaning only 9 or 10% of web pages actually get any traffic at all. So, obviously there's a lot of things that tie into SEO, really around kind of on page and off page. And I'm going to kind of touch on some of those things today. So just to give you an idea, generally when I'm doing some of these presentations, they can range anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. This one's half an hour, so it's very condensed. So I'm going to really do my best to try to give you some really solid takeaways. And I apologize if I'm talking too quickly, but I'm trying to get through a lot of content here as quickly as I can, because I really want to make sure we leave enough time for questions at the end of these slides. So really, here are the 3 things that I would focus on, and that we ourselves are focusing on for SEO success in 2021. So this really is my biggest takeaway, is around mobile user experience. So that is number 1, mobile user experience. And I'll dig into each one of these as we go through the presentation. 2 is around content, and 3 is around digital PR. So let's talk about mobile user experience. So as some of you may or may not know, Google ranks websites or indexes websites on a mobile first basis. And obviously this shifted. So for myself, when I entered the industry back in 2012, everything was desktop first, right? That was the primary version of your site, and that's how Google looked at it. And when you were designing, you would design from a desktop perspective. That's shifted. And understandably, I think it really does depend on your business. If you were to analyze your analytics, noticeably some businesses would have, 70% of their traffic would be mobile, 30 would be desktop, whereas maybe more traditional businesses may be flipped at 70% desktop, 30% mobile. However, Google does look at your site on a mobile first basis. So anytime you're designing anything or anything around development for your website, you want to think of mobile first. And you want to make sure that you're delivering a great experience for website visitors, that your website's loading quickly, that buttons are easily accessible, there's no shifting of elements, whatever it might be, a really, really important factor. And for those of you who may or may not know, it's been talked about for quite, over a year in the SEO circles. But Google is making what's called a Google Page Experience Update. And this is kind of rolling out in May. And just a little bit more information on that is Core Web Vitals. So Core Web Vitals is an initiative by Google to essentially provide a unified guidance for quality signals that are essential to delivering a great user experience on the web. So with that, they have these 3 metrics that they're basically analyzing, and they want you for these metrics, for you to be able to deliver a great user experience for users. So as I said, as of May, these signals will start impacting your rankings. Now, I don't want to alarm anyone. It's not going to be something where you have to be at 100% for all these things by May, or you're not going to rank. It's not like that. But at the end of the day, I think it's important for everyone to be aware of these metrics, be aware of user experience signals and metrics, and to do their best to address them as best they can. So one tool that anyone can use is called PageSpeed Insights, completely free tool from Google. And what it allows you to do is run your website through that, and it will grade your website based on these metrics. So you'll notice, now I of course put my just a personal site that's very lean, not a lot of images, not a lot of video, nothing crazy, and still it's not by any means perfect scores. I'm going to give you an idea. Generally, when you run a mobile site through here, the mobile version of the site will typically get a little bit lower scores, and the desktop tends to perform a little bit better. But you'll see those metrics at the bottom, the first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, and cumulative layout shifts. Those are the 3 metrics you really have to pay attention to, as those are actually part of that overall page experience update, and will, again, this will be a ranking factor. So I do recommend each of you to go in there. Again, take some of this with a grain of salt. You don't have to get to 100 necessarily. Ideally, you want to get as high as you can. But you'll see this origin summary there, depending on how popular your website is. So websites with a lot more traffic and a little bit more history, it can actually give you a grade, and will tell you whether or not you would pass the real world test for page experience update. So definitely check that out. Moving on, there's a lot to get through here, so I'm going to keep digging. And again, just a reminder, we'll save opportunity for questions at the end. So second is around content. Really, to narrow it down, I think we have to create content that delivers value, and whatever the form is, whether it's written, video, audio, we have to make sure that we're getting to the point and we're delivering value to our users. There's so much competition out there in terms of content. There's so much noise, whether it's on websites or social media, YouTube. We really have to get to the point and deliver value for our users. One tip I have for you is, when looking at SEO and just overall, SEO is not just about just SEO anymore. It really is about content or web presence optimization. And one good tip I have for any of you is, if you do create a content, if you create a blog, if you create an article, look to repurpose that. Right? You can repurpose that in different formats. We've done things where we've created, for example, a Shopify SEO guide, and create that into an ebook, you create into a blog, and then you can even do a webinar, around that. So look for opportunities to again, not reinvent the wheel, and you can repurpose existing content into different formats. And there's so many opportunities for that. Another thing I would recommend is looking at anything that is new, experiments, new formats. So I think, all social networks, and even with Google, they're releasing new things all the time. And I find that tends to be where the best opportunities are. So one thing that's been released, I believe in the past year anyhow, it's called Web Stories. So Web Stories is essentially a tappable format that would show up on a mobile device when somebody searches in Google. And the really cool thing about this, of course, this is directly from Google, but it gives you full control of what you're showing. So it would actually show up similar to like an Instagram story, how it's very visual and you can kind of tap through. that it basically shows that in their search results. So it's really cool. I don't think a lot of people are doing it. Some publishers are doing it. Maybe people who have bigger budgets and maybe more into SEO. But I think it's kind of untapped at this point. And I still think there's a lot of opportunities with web stories. So I highly recommend you check it out on just search Google web stories, and they actually have, Google has a landing page where they explain kind of what it is, how to use it. But they also have a WordPress plugin available. So those of you who are on WordPress, there is an opportunity for you to be able to create web stories directly from your WordPress dashboard. Finally, I think it's really important to deliver content that's clear, concise, and to the point. And in SEO, I think sometimes we get away from this a little bit, where we, I've heard a lot of people, they say, oh, you need, 3,000, words of content to rank, or, looking at doing really long form content and stuff like that. But I've found, we have to be really cognizant of today's environment. And I found more than ever, people have very short attention spans. They have a lot going on. They're distracted, right? If, they're at home, working from home, the kids are there and all kinds of things. So I think we have to, again, think of this as marketers, as SEOs. We have to get to the point with our content. And I'll show you a couple really cool ways of doing that. So here is this is the landing page for Google Web Stories. So this kind of shows you a very visual representation of kind of what you can do with those stories. And again, I think it's a really exciting opportunity for the market in general. This is around getting to clear and concise and to the point. So lately, I don't know any of you who are into investing or stocks. There was a huge thing earlier in the month or last month with GameStop, this stock that essentially was getting short squeezed. So personally, I was kind of interested. I'm like, what is this? And I did a quick search. What is a short squeeze? And this is the page that came up. It was Investopedia. And one thing that I really liked about this blog post or this article was that they had these key takeaways right there and then. So they had a quick, okay, what is it? They got right into it, and they had these takeaways. So anybody who's just like, just needs that information quick and they want to get out, they have it there right in your face. And I think that's a really good example of being to the point and providing a really good customer user experience, right? So too long, didn't read. And on the right, you'll notice around connecting with their audience. So they actually picked up that they were probably receiving a lot of search traffic for people searching, what is a short squeeze? And they knew typically it was around the GameStop and the AMC, phenomenon. So they actually, catered the content on that page to tie into that narrative and actually address that. So I think that was just a really very smart and timely way of connecting with their audience and really resonating and bringing it back. And then it clicked in, oh, well, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I think it's a really good way of kind of just connecting with your audience. So just some takeaways. And even for myself in our blog delivery, I had a discussion with our content manager and I was like, we need to start doing this, like the takeaways. And I think that's just a really cool way of formatting their content. The third and final tip for today, again, I know I'm kind of flying through stuff here, is around digital PR. So essentially digital PR is, for how I approach it, is a great way of building links to your website. So when I talk about SEO, I mentioned earlier, there's kind of two components. There's an on-page component and there's an off-page. So on-page, we talked about, the technical aspects of SEO, like your site speed and usability and content and things of that sort. There's also the off-page, which includes things like links, right? Links to your site. And while Google has made a lot of, attraction in trying to reduce the importance of link, I more than ever still do believe it is an important aspect of SEO. Now, while I don't recommend you go out there and buy backlinks or do anything, black hat or whatnot, I think, being cognizant of and looking for opportunities where you could build links, whether it's through, relationships, or, this is a really good example of how we like to build links is through digital PR. And one service that, we use for digital PR is called Help a Reporter. So it's also called Haro. And essentially what Help a Reporter allows you to do is connect with journalists. So what you would do is you would log on to Help a Reporter, you would click I'm a source, and basically it would ask a little bit of information about you, about your expertise, and you could actually sign up for a series of emails based on different industries. So for example, myself, I'm subscribed to the business list as well as the high tech list. So on a daily, 3 times a day, I actually get an email in my inbox, and it actually shows journalists that are looking for sources to provide a pitch within their article. And it allows you to connect with, journalists from top publications. We've been published in, Forbes, CMS Wire, Huffington Post, like any of these like high-end publisher sites, but even like niche specific or industry specific outlets. So I really recommend anyone who's into SEO and building links and trying to get their website to rank higher in Google. This is a really important aspect of it, particularly if you're in a competitive industry. You need to be aware of your links and in your overall link building efforts. And another tool you could use, I didn't put it in here, but you could check out majestic.com. And Majestic allows you just to kind of see what are the links coming to your sites. You could put your URL in there and it will actually show you the number of links you have to your site, the quality of those links. And again, while this is not exactly how Google perceives it, it's a good way of just analyzing, what is the quality of my links? What's the volume of my links? And it kind of gives you an indicator. Like you could put in one of your competitors in there and you could see, how much work you may or may not have to do to be able to, level the playing field a little bit. Last takeaway for Haro, you can actually flip it and you could actually become the journalist on Haro. So what that allows you to do, it puts you in the driver's seat. You can actually seek, experts on a given subject. So for example, I could go and say, hey, I'm Brock Murray. My publication is SEO Plus, and you could actually have people pitching to you, which allows you to create content on your site and actually, build relationships with other potential marketers or sources. And when you actually, I've done in the past where you publish this article and then it allows you to get, social engagement, people are sharing it, and actually people do link back as well. So really recommend that. I think it's a really good tool for anybody looking to build up their SEO. So finally, I want to leave enough time for questions. Just to kind of wrap this up. One, for SEO success, mobile user experience, very important. Always thinking about mobile first when it comes to your design and web design and development. Second, I think everyone needs to check out page speed insights and just check to see if your website passes the core web vitals, right? I'm sure most of us have opportunities where we could, optimize our site, and you may or may not need to include, someone like a web developer or designer to help you with that. But there's also, even if you're on WordPress, there's lots of plugins that can kind of help improve those metrics. The second is around content. So really, anytime you're developing content, whether it's blog content, website content, video, again, you got to make sure you're delivering value for your audience, getting right to the point. And always looking for those new opportunities and new formats. So, one that came to mind is web stories. I'm sure there's a lot more out there that a lot of opportunities. We talk about, social media and whatnot. But I think that's one everyone should check out. And the third and final tip is around digital PR. Check out Help a Reporter. It's a really great way to not only build personal brand, also your business's brand if you have that, and to create backlinks and even build relationships. So yeah, thanks. And hopefully we can open it up to questions.
Thank you so much, Brock. Wow, that was a lot of information, facts in 20 minutes. I can see that our chat is bursting with questions, and a few of them actually revolve around the platforms where you build your website. So could you please provide some brief comparison of Squarespace, WordPress, Wix when it comes to SEO? And I know that Darian has already shared a link to some comparison online, but your personal opinion would definitely be appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to recommend a tool. I think it really depends on your your business, where you're at. Like I think for a startup, I'm going to make a different recommendation than someone who's more established. I mean, WordPress is one of the most popular content management systems. It's very dynamic. You can customize it. It can be a challenge for someone who's less technical. I think if you're trying to really get to a good space. So I think any of those. I think Wix has actually made tremendous strides in improving their overall platform. So I think any of those are good. Shopify, we're huge fans of, particularly for e-commerce. Again, if you're more of a startup, I don't know if the $40 a month is necessarily something you want to get into. And again, there may be some more technical challenges there, trying to kind of build up customizations in the site. So I think at the end of the day, I think any of them are good and have use cases. But I really do think it depends on your business and kind of where you're at, and also the team you have at your disposal to be able to tweak it to the way you need to get it. But personally, my two favorite are WordPress and Shopify.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great answer. We have another question from Rita. So could you clarify a little more how repurposing existing content is helping SEO?
So, I mean, I think SEO, again, I don't look at SEO as just like the search engine or just the traffic. I look at the big picture. I think it's, you can't be doing just one thing anymore. You have to be doing a little bit of everything, because it all works together, right? So, you know, talking about repurposing content, I think it can be a challenge when you're trying to develop, you know, all this different content for your business or for your company. So I think it's just a really easy way if, you know, if you get, you know, if you write a blog article that's, you know, long form, let's say it's 2,000 words, it's a no brainer because it allows you to, you know, different people digest content in different ways. So I think it's a good way of being able to market to your audience in various ways. And again, not having to reinvent the wheel, to be able to use the same content, but again, just formatting it in a different way to be able to appeal to that audience. So I think that's kind of where the benefit is. And again, just like that example I gave of the Shopify SEO, where we created this blog article, but we knew there was a lot of good content in there. Well, the next step was, well, let's do a webinar. Let's talk about this. We, you know, created the slides with similar content, and then you could wrap it up with an ebook that goes out, right? So, and again, it's establishing yourself as an authority based on that content you're creating. So that's why I think the repurposing the content is a really good way of helping your SEO.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that was a great answer. Very insightful. We have another question from Vivek. Is it better to use website templates or to build a website from scratch from the SEO perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's better to build it from scratch for sure. Again, understanding that not everyone has, you know, huge budgets or you know, an overly experienced development team on their at their disposal. I think you can do a lot of great things even with templates. I mean, when I started my business and I started designing websites for clients, you know, for me, you know, we were trying to compete. You know, we had to do it at a, you know, inexpensive price. You know, we were doing websites for, you know, $2 or $3 grand initially. And, you know, with that, we didn't have time to build all these completely custom, you know, everything. So what we would do is we go to something like ThemeForest, download an existing WordPress theme and utilize that to kind of expedite the process of developing a site, right? So I think if you're more in kind of startup mode, you don't have a huge budget and you kind of want to hit the ground running, I think that's a really good opportunity is something like ThemeForest. Obviously now I think with that, you know, where we're at right now, I think there's a lot of bloat in a lot of these themes. There's a lot of additional plugins you might not need, a lot of JavaScript, a lot of CSS, which can, I guess, be a challenge when it comes to things like page speed insights and delivering a good mobile user experience. So anytime you can do custom, you're going to be better off long-term, and you are going to get a faster load time. You're going to get a better user experience. So that's ideally the direction you want to go. But understanding, hey, if you're just starting out, you want to get just a website up, you want to get an MVP up, whatever it might be, you know, that's one option for you. It would be the theme, the pre-existing theme.
Thank you. Another question here in chat is coming from Gina. So first of all, lots of great information. Thank you, Brock. I should share that first. So could you please explain more about the backlinks and the best way to utilize them with other creators?
Yeah, so essentially backlinks is when one website links to another. So let's say in a given piece of content, if someone's trying to reference that they've, you know, read my article and they're quoting it, so they can link back to, you know, SEOplus or Brock Murray. And in Google's eyes, it's kind of like a vote. It's a vote of confidence, or essentially it's just a way of kind of passing authority, right? And Google historically, like when they first came out, that was like the top ranking factor. They didn't have a lot of these other things. And now, I mean, there's over 200 ranking factors, but it still is a very important aspect to SEO is getting, you know, a variety of links from different sites, you know, in different formats as well. You can have text links, you can have image links. So I do think it's important to have links to your site. And, you know, that should happen over time. Any business that's growing naturally, this is going to happen organically. But, you know, when you're aware of it, I think there's opportunities to, you know, to increase the volume of links, you intentionally. So for example, if you are a real estate agent, you probably work with a mover, you work with a home stager, you work with a insurance agent, all these things, there's opportunities potentially to maybe do a guest blog, to have a partners page, to link to it. I've done lots of things with testimonials. I find a lot of people will put those testimonials on the homepage of their site. So backlinks, there's always a lot of opportunities there to be able to drive links. But again, you have to be intentional on how you want to build that. And with other creators, I think it's essentially looking, with existing content or creating new content, and essentially just linking back to them, right? Nothing much to it, but try not to be too spammy and try not to be too repetitive with the same tactic, because sometimes that can draw the ire of Google. But again, I think it's still a very important aspect of SEO.
I know we are almost at the time we have for the session, but there's another question in the chat. There are actually a few. So if I'm planning to launch a desktop only website while my competitor has a mobile presence as well, does that mean I'll always rank below them on Google?
I mean, I would say I would say do not launch a desktop only website. Like, I don't know if that's a good plan. I think you want to have a responsive website. Obviously I think web apps are an opportunity. I wouldn't, again, any SEO, it depends. I think we've probably seen sites that have ranked better than ones that are, mobile friendly, but I would say you want to have a mobile friendly website. And I think I've actually seen that some websites, Google still is not mobile first. It'll actually show you in Google Search Console whether or not it's indexing mobile or desktop. The majority are mobile, but I would not design for desktop first, unless there's some crazy thing where, from your analytics, it's 99%, desktop traffic. I just don't think it's a good idea long-term. You want to make sure you're Google's looking for these things. They're investing a lot into this. And I think also the audience is shifting into that as well. So I would say, I can't guarantee that you would always rank below them, but I think you need to be thinking about mobile first.
Perfect. Thank you. So there are actually a few, but we have 2 more minutes. So I'm going to read another question to you. So the short squeeze example you gave is very interesting. If a visitor comes to a site, finds something useful, and leaves right away, wouldn't that show as a bounce rate? Or because there's a lot of traffic, they constantly rank high?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, because historically you would imagine the longer they're on the site, that would be a good thing. Honestly, that's a really, really great question, because yeah, I mean, I can't remember exactly what the timing is on a bounce, but it may or may not. I mean, I think, here's my opinion, is that Google is pretty good at drawing this stuff out. And, particularly, I mean, people have Google Analytics, on their site. They can analyze that. And I think could also be like, let's say they go to your site, they kind of get what they need, they bounce. Google can also tell if they went back to Google and clicked on another listing. But if they got the information they needed, then they wouldn't go look for another listing. So that could be an indicator of if whether or not they got the information that they needed. But it's a really good point.
Perfect. I know there may be a couple more questions in the chat. So if you have a second, please take that second to respond to them in chat if you have time. And thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I hope we get a chance to see you again at the Venture Cafe, because you are obviously a rock star and we're all loving your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thanks again. And good luck, Darren. Thanks for it.